Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, spent decades mapping the hidden territories of the human psyche. While he's widely known for concepts like the collective unconscious, archetypes, and shadow work, one of his most disturbing discoveries concerned not mental illness, but a rare psychological gift, or curse. He called it differentiated perception, the uncanny ability to see unconscious patterns, detect lies, sense hidden emotions, and perceive truths that escape almost everyone else. On paper, this might sound like a superpower. In practice, Jung found that it often isolates, exhausts, and even destroys the very people who possess it. This is the story of why Jung considered this ability dangerous, the psychological cost it exacts, and how, if integrated wisely, it can transform someone into what he saw as a pioneer of consciousness. The case that changed Jung's perspective. In 1913, during his own psychological crisis after breaking with Freud, Jung met a patient who embodied what he would later call the rarest personality type. She was a deeply introverted, intuitive woman who could walk into a room and instantly sense the hidden emotional currents. Who was lying, who was resentful, who was silently hurting. Her perceptions were disturbingly accurate. Jung verified them through questioning and found that she could read people with the precision of someone peering directly into their private thoughts. But instead of benefiting from this gift, her life was in ruins. She couldn't engage in small talk because she saw through every facade. She lost friendships because others felt too exposed in her presence. She struggled to hold jobs because her awareness disrupted the unspoken psychological agreements that keep groups functioning. This, Jung realized, wasn't a mental disorder. It was consciousness that had become too conscious. Perception so highly developed, it threatened the social fabric that depends on shared illusions. The rare introverted intuitive. Jung's typology identified her as an introverted intuitive, a personality type that makes up roughly 1% of the population. Unlike the more common highly sensitive person, described in modern research by Dr. Elaine Aron, the introverted intuitive doesn't just feel more deeply, they perceive unconscious patterns with startling clarity. They notice the depression hiding behind a confident smile, the desperation beneath ambition, and the collective shadow that groups unconsciously agree to ignore. Jung described the danger in one sentence. The danger lies not in the perception itself, but in the psychic isolation it creates. When one sees clearly what others cannot or will not see, one becomes a mirror that society cannot bear to look into. The scapegoat phenomenon. With great perception comes great misunderstanding. Jung noticed that these individuals often became targets for unconscious hostility. This happens through a process called shadow projection, when a person sees in someone else the very traits they deny in themselves. When a highly perceptive individual reflects back this hidden material, others have two options. 1. Integrate the truth, or 2. Attack the mirror. Most choose the second. This leads to what Jung called the scapegoat phenomenon. The perceptive person becomes the problem in any group, not because they cause dysfunction, but because they reveal dysfunction that already exists. The group, unable to handle this, unconsciously assigns them the role of troublemaker. 4 subtypes of the perceptive personality. Through years of observation, Jung identified 4 distinct ways the introverted intuitive might process this extraordinary perception. 1. The feeling intuitive. Absorbs emotions so deeply they can't tell where their feelings end and others begin. They live in a state of constant emotional contagion. 2. The thinking intuitive. Detects psychological patterns and can predict outcomes. Relationship collapses, career disasters, personal breakdowns with uncanny precision. 3. The sensation intuitive. Senses the physical manifestations of others' emotions, sometimes detecting illness or stress before the person is even aware of it. 4. The pure intuitive. Perceives unconscious patterns without being dominated by any other function, often experiencing raw streams of intuitive insight that defy explanation. The 3 core dangers. Jung saw 3 distinct dangers in having perception this advanced. 1. Collective unconscious disruption. People who see too much can destabilize the unspoken agreements that allow social groups to function, creating resistance and hostility. 2. Psychological isolation. What Jung called the problem of the superior function. Your greatest strength becomes your greatest burden, separating you from collective participation. 3. Participation mystique. Over-identifying with others' unconscious material to the point of losing one's own psychological boundaries and identity. Jung's path to integration. Jung didn't believe the answer was to dull this perception, but to integrate it. He developed a 3-phase approach for people with superior perception. 1. Discrimination of contents. Learn to distinguish what belongs to you from what you've absorbed from others. Without this, individuality can't develop. 2. Shadow integration. Recognize that the ability to see others' shadows often mirrors your own unintegrated shadow. Without doing your own shadow work, your insights can become judgmental or destructive. 3. Conscious participation. Engage with others' unconscious material without being overwhelmed or losing yourself. The goal is to serve as a bridge between conscious and unconscious realities. Examples of failure and success. Jung often contrasted 2 historical figures to illustrate the difference between failed and successful integration. 1. Friedrich Nietzsche. Possessed devastating clarity, but used it as a weapon against society. Without integration, his perception led to collapse. 2. Meister Eckhart. A mystic who also saw deeply, but transformed his insights into compassion and service, nourishing others without alienating them. The role of relationships. For highly perceptive people, relationships can either nourish or destroy them. Jung identified 3 kinds of relationships essential for their psychological survival. 1. Fellow individuated persons. Those who share a similar depth of awareness, creating instant mutual recognition. 2. Natural containers. Emotionally mature people who can hold psychological content without being overwhelmed. 3. Curious allies. Individuals who, while not sharing the gift, respond with curiosity rather than defensiveness. The litmus test. Notice whether someone becomes defensive or curious when you share your perceptions. Stages of transformation. Jung described 4 developmental stages for integrating superior perception. 1. Recognition. Without overwhelm. Accepting your abilities without being crushed by them. 2. Integration. Without isolation. Using your perception constructively without retreating from the world. 3. Service. Without depletion. Offering your insights without exhausting yourself. 4. Legacy. Without attachment. Contributing to collective growth without clinging to recognition or outcomes. Common pitfalls. Many perceptive individuals fall into traps that halt their growth. 1. Psychological inflation, identifying with the gift and believing oneself to be the ultimate authority. 2. Withdrawal justification, using perception as an excuse to disengage completely from society. Third role, identification, becoming trapped in the seer or guru role at the cost of personal authenticity. 4. Overwhelm return, relapsing into absorption of others' unconscious material during stress. Integration, Jung warned, is never a permanent achievement. It's a continual process. Consciousness pioneers. Jung saw highly perceptive individuals as essential for humanity's psychological evolution. In The Undiscovered Self, he wrote, "The individual has always been the carrier of the living spirit, the one who brings about the change in society." He believed these individuals often sense the future before it manifests, whether in personal relationships, societal trends, or spiritual development. Their role is not to martyr themselves to consciousness, but to serve as a bridge between the unconscious present and the conscious future. The patient's transformation. The woman Jung first studied eventually learned to integrate her gift. By setting boundaries, seeking solitude, and finding relationships that valued her insights, she stopped experiencing her perception as a curse. She became a counselor, using her abilities to help others without being consumed by their unconscious material. Jung's reflection on her journey captures the heart of his message. The patient learned not to see less, but to see more wisely. The real danger and the real opportunity. Jung's most dangerous discovery wasn't simply that some people can see everything others miss. It was that most of these individuals never learn to use what they see wisely. The danger isn't in perception itself. It's in the failure to integrate it consciously. For Jung, the introverted intuitive was not a malfunctioning personality, but an advanced feature of human consciousness, a psychological type essential for our species' growth. These people are consciousness pioneers, preparing humanity for developments not yet visible to the collective mind. The challenge for those who possess this gift is clear. Will you suppress your perception to fit in with the collective unconscious? Or will you develop the skills to use it consciously, becoming a bridge between the seen and unseen, the present and the possible?